famously said, like to become an expert in anything, you got to put in the 10,000 hours. The tweak I put on it, and it's a little glib because I think Gladwell would agree, it's really 10,000 iterations, not 10,000 hours. And it's not 10,000, obviously, it's just a lot of iterations. But iterations are where you do something and then you examine the outcome, you take the feedback, and then you do it again, but in a slightly different way with the learning from the previous time applied. And you just keep doing that. And that's how we as humans accomplish anything. It's always by doing lots and lots of iterations. So when we're asking for advice, when we're asking for help, when we're asking for mentorship, we're looking for books, we're watching videos, what we're really doing is we're deciding. We're deciding, like, am I going to commit to do this thing? And when you commit to do this thing, you're going to just start the process of doing the thing and you're going to do the iterations. And I think that's what separates the successful, quote unquote, from the unsuccessful. The only difference, the difference that luck makes is how many iterations it's going to take you. Is it going to take you 500 or 10,000, right? That's the difference that luck makes. It also makes a difference in the magnitude. Okay, you're going to build a business, going to be a $10 million business or a $100 million business or a $1 billion business. There's a lot of luck involved in that. But if you're going to succeed or not eventually, I don't think luck has a whole lot to do with that. That's just number of iterations and how many iterations it's going to take you. So once you've decided you want to do something, just get moving. Mentorship, I think, is really overrated. It's it's only important to the extent that you think it's important. If you think it's important and it's what's going to give you the confidence and courage to motivate you to get started, then great, it's useful. But you don't really need it. One of the ways you can see that it's overrated is that if you look in human history, whether it's in science or politics or art or warfare, most of the accomplishments are done by young people. They're done, between the ages of, call it, 17 to 30. It's rare to have, great scientific breakthroughs later, or, in works of art, they can get better over time. But like in politics and war, etc., it's really a young person's domain. Not to say you can't do something when you're older, get better at it. In fact, I favor things like investing, where you get better as you get older, where those are purely judgment-based activities. But certainly in doing based activities, like if you're playing basketball, you better get started young. So it, a lot of the greatness is done by young people, which sort of tells you that they weren't necessarily waiting around for mentors. Coaches can be helpful, role models can be helpful, advisors can be helpful, mentors can be helpful, but these are all things in the margin. These are not the central thing. And if you spend too long searching for a mentor, it's just an advanced form of procrastination.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the whole there is no try, just do, the whole Yoda thing. So I think it's kind of that
Yeah,
mindset,
I
I
didn't want to
guess.
say that. I already get accused of enough Yodaism. So, but yeah, do or do not. There is no try. It's absolutely
There is
right.
no try. That's
Yoda
it.
said
There
it
you go.
best. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, Carlos.
Hi, Naval. My background is advertising. I work in the industry for a long time and kind of following your advices. I focus mostly on martial arts. That is a big passion that I have. I was able to help Rickson Gracie to develop his online classes. And I'd just like to hear, especially from the philosophical side, what do you think I could do with martial arts and maybe digital?
Yeah. I mean, the obvious thing is to create content, right? To create videos and to create courses. Sorry, Reem, you're on, but your mic is on. If you could just mute yourself, please, until. Thank you. So the obvious thing to do is to develop content and to develop curriculums online, or write things or do videos and so on. But it's sort of hard to stand out, right? There's probably like a lot of videos out there. So you're probably going to need to figure out some niche knowledge that you have, call it specific knowledge. There's probably some part of martial arts that you're really into that other people aren't that much into, you're almost stupidly into. And what the beauty of the internet is, no matter how weird your niche obsession, there's a whole bunch of other people out there who are into it. And so you could create content around that. You'd want to brand it strongly. You probably wouldn't want to just say, I don't know enough about martial arts, but say you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you wouldn't want to just say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You'd probably want to talk about your very specific thing that you do, and you'd want to coin a phrase, so to speak. You'd want to brand it in such a way that people will start talking about it that way. And then, depending on how useful and broad that thing is and how people want to play with it, You may end up opening a line of studios, so you can productize yourself with the gym thing. You could train a bunch of instructors and certify them, like Zumba or Bikram Yoga, where you have some kind of a branded technique, and now there are other certified instructors who are paying you a commission, and they're kind of out there spreading it. You could do it purely through videos and content online. You could even do it through software. You could do it through performances. There are many, many different paths to approach it, but essentially, you want to figure out some part of it that you are really into, but other people can learn from you and uniquely learn from you. You want to brand it in some way, and then you want to create some leverage around it, either by creating content or code or a program or a brand or kind of an instruction profile, so that it's not just you always going out there and manually teaching people. And I think if you were to combine those three, then you're going to have something that is relatively highly leveraged.
Thank you. Do you think there's any way I can relate that to NFT?
NFTs are sort of this new thing and it's super buzzy right now. So um, I would say give it a little while to play out. NFTs are working in highly digital domains. Like if you create a piece of content or piece of art that is completely digital, and then people have an affinity for it and they want to just own that thing, then NFTs make sense. I don't see the clear overlap with martial arts right now, unless maybe there's like a trading card thing, like how people want to own baseball cards. Maybe they want to own cards of martial artists. I don't know. I'm actually not a collector myself, so I don't have a native understanding of NFTs like a collector actually would. And I would say to you that unless unless you yourself are into NFTs and you find yourself buying NFTs and selling NFTs, and unless you have a native sense of how they work, it's not clear to me that that is the place you would start.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Guy.
Hey there. So first of all, I want to say I listened to your 3 hour long podcast and I loved it. I sincerely recommend it to anyone who's listening to us right now. And if I have to kind of talk about myself, like you say, I cannot be summed down to a pithy statement. But if I have to, I'm a creative person and I'm future oriented. So yeah, I have really two questions which I would love to bring up here. First of all, is actually if you brought up NFTs. So I'm building something in that area where I would have to explain the value of blockchain in general to people who are not blockchain oriented in a sense. I myself have some experience there, so I kind of know where I'm aiming, but you are a very articulate person, so I would love to actually hear your thoughts about how to articulate the value proposition of blockchain, especially to really luxury brands and people who are not very oriented there. And my second question, if you want me to stop and ask it later, just tell me. But is that very well-established entrepreneur and investor kind of reached out to me, where I'm in the very early stages of this platform, and I feel like he wants to invest actually in me rather than the platform. So how would I really approach this proposition of him to really invest in my idea? He wants to obviously put a large sum of money and work with me in a long-term fashion. He like wants to invest in a long-term relationship. So how would I navigate it since this is my first company, right? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not in a position yet where I can really articulate NFTs and that whole phenomenon yet because I don't fully understand it myself yet. I'm still trying to develop my framework around it, and I don't think I have any unique insights. I think just to kind of give people a sense of what I've gathered so far, which is very incomplete, is that it's basically the blockchain, in a sense, is a perfect digital registry. It's immutable. Once you put data in there, it can't be taken out, and it's highly authenticated. So it's very good for establishing ownership of things. And Bitcoin is the first fungible token in the sense that Bitcoins are interchangeable with each other, so they're called fungible. But no one can steal my Bitcoin once it's in there, secured by the network and by my private key. And if you can protect billions of dollars worth of value, actually now I think the Bitcoin blockchain is worth $1 trillion as of today. If you can protect and secure $1 trillion worth of value using blockchains, then you can certainly use it not just for the ownership of money, you can use it for the ownership of other things like art, like digital art. And those things are not fungible in the sense that they're not exchangeable. And that could be art, it could be um, domain names, it could be items in video games, and so on. That said, it's not quite clear to me how much value something gets because you kind of have digital ownership. Uh, sometimes that digital ownership has to sort of follow the item. It has to be attached to that media. Sometimes it has to be the media only has value when it's used somewhere. Like for example, a game item has value when it's used in a game, and maybe it has different or less value when it's not being used in a game. Um, I cannot say that I have a great grasp on where the value in an NFT comes from. I think people like Mark Cuban and others have spoken more about this and are maybe more articulate. I'm still forming my thoughts on it. I think Max just came up here. He may have an opinion on NFTs. Max, do you want to articulate NFTs for us and the value?
Well, sure. I came in to ask you different question.
Oh
Uh,
no, I'm putting you on the spot. Max is a
okay,
real world friend of mine,
perfect.
so that's
Uh,
okay. I can let you off the hook.
uh,
I do think we're kind of in this weird situation right now where people are sort of so there's like these weird sites that are selling land, right? They're literally selling land as NFTs, and you're like, land where exactly? Where does this land exist? Well, maybe in a future VR world, but we don't have all of us wearing VR helmets and walking around VR worlds today. So basically, they're trying to establish the canonical registry for digital ownership of land, just like Bitcoin is trying to establish the canonical registry for digital ownership of money. And what they're kind of hoping is if enough of the early adopters get together and agree that this is the title registry for land online, that when the rest of us come and join them in that quest for online land, because by then maybe there will be good VR applications, that we will agree that their canonical digital registry is the correct one, and they will have won something by being there early. On the other hand, if virtual land takes off in some 3D world that is yet to be invented, then whoever invented that may get to reset the digital registry and say, I don't care if these people came before and bought this digital land. It's fake, made up digital land. I can make up my own, and I'm not going to accept their registry inside mine. So there is sort of this subtle battle going on underneath for what is the canonical registry of ownership of non-fungible items. And just like Bitcoin is winning the battle for the canonical registry of the ownership of fungible tokens, there is one going on for non-fungible tokens. Beyond that, though, I don't really understand what's going on. Now, in terms of your question of how to deal with this investor who came to you, I think it's great that the investor believes in you. That's actually the best kind of investor, someone who has conviction in the entrepreneur rather than the business, because businesses come and go. But if someone believes in you, then they're going to be more forgiving of your pivots and your attempts in the future. So I think it's starting on a great basis. You just have to negotiate a fair relationship where the person doesn't control you in some inordinate way. They don't have crazy expectations out of you. They understand what the role of an investor is, and they give you kind of market terms. But all of that is really highly in the specifics. But I think the best way to start a relationship with an investor is someone who likes you as the entrepreneur. There's nothing better.
Thank you very much for your answer. I sincerely agree with everything you said. Just to add on to the point of the value of non fungible tokens,